If you've purchased Football Manager 2023 but you're not sure where to start your next adventure, worry not, because in this video we're heading to Spain, where we're going to check out the champions and the challengers, the rebuilds and the lower league clubs that might just inspire your next Football Manager save. For the last couple editions of Football Manager, you've had no fewer than 4 playable levels to select a club from in Spain. You've got the 20-team top division, followed by the 22-team second tier, and then below that, things are organised on a regional basis. You have the third tier that's split into 2 different groups before you head down to the 4th playable tier, where you have 1, 2, 3, 4 different regional divisions that you can select your Football Manager side from. But which one will you choose? Let's check out some of the top clubs, beginning with the champions. Real Madrid are not just defending Spanish champions, they're defending European champions as well, and at first glance, it might seem like there's no challenge involved in taking over this giant of the global game. However, as we'll show you in a moment, there may be one honour yet that you might be able to strive towards, but let's have a look at what you would have at your disposal if you were to take over this great club. In terms of playing talent, you'd have the experience of Ballon d'Or winner Benzema, World Cup finalist Modric, and World Cup winner Kroos. But breaking from their Galactico policy, Real Madrid also offer you some young talent as well in the form of Tchouaméni, midfielder Eduardo Camavinga, and winger Vinicius Jr. It's going to be pretty difficult to top Madrid's facilities with superb training facilities, superb youth facilities, excellent academy coaching, and exceptional youth recruitment. And on the pitch, Real Madrid are one of the world's most successful clubs. Let's start with their continental triumphs, and they are the team that holds the record for the most European Cup or Champions League victories. Last season was their 14th in total, and they won the first 5 iterations of the competition between 1956 and 1960 as well. They've gone on to win the FIFA World Club Cup on 4 different occasions. Domestically, they've won La Liga 35 times as well, a record for Spain. They have a host of other European competitions, as well as winning the Copa del Rey on 19 different occasions as well. So where on earth is the challenge if you take over Real Madrid? Well, that challenge might come in how many times you're able to win the Champions League in your time in charge. Jupp Heynckes is the only coach to win the Champions League with Madrid and not go on to win it a second time. Munoz, Villalonga, Camilla, Del Bosque and Ancelotti all won it twice, and Zidane has won it 3 times. But could you be the first coach in this club's long and great history to guide them to 4 Champions League crowns? Potentially, you could go on and win even more and cement your place in history as Real Madrid's greatest ever coach. Much has changed at rivals FC Barcelona over the last couple of seasons, and they've probably shifted from being a rebuild back to being genuine challengers once more. They've renamed the stadium for a sponsorship deal, and they've sold off much of the family silver in order to try and replenish their squad. And they now have a roster that might allow you to compete with Madrid for the title once more. Whilst Madrid have brought in young talent, Barca have opted for one of the global stars of the game in the form of 33-year-old Robert Lewandowski. You'd still be able to call on the services of club legends such as Sergio Busquets, but there's young talent in this squad too, such as Pedri, wonder kid Ansu Fati, and 17-year-old starlet Xavi. At first glance, there might not be much of a challenge in taking over FC Barcelona, but perhaps there is, in the form of trying to chase down Real Madrid. Whereas they've got 14 Champions Leagues, unfortunately Barca only have 5, and they didn't win the first of those until 1992, when under the stewardship of Johan Cruyff, an extra-time goal from Ronald Koeman saw them win 1-0 over Sampdoria of Italy. They've gone on to win it on 4 further occasions, as well as lifting the FIFA Club World Cup 3 times, but they also lag behind their rivals from the capital in terms of La Liga victories as well. They have 26, the last of those coming in 2019, but they have 9 fewer league titles than Real Madrid, and that is surely a statistic that you would like to put right when you take over. Few clubs are as famed as Barcelona for their youth development, and they have superb training and youth facilities and exceptional academy coaching and youth recruitment. Barcelona have certainly strengthened their squad, but they are also a fragile club with delicate finances that you would have to be cautious about Were you to take on this role, you would need Champions League football in order to develop the club's budgets once more, to allow you to strengthen to a stage where you could add to their 5 Champions League honours. Any club that's gone toe-to-toe with giants Real Madrid and Barcelona down the years is worthy of credit, and Atletico Madrid are certainly one of those clubs, yet they remain a side that are in search of their first Champions League honour, having lost that final 3 times in their history. Atletico have robbed the Big Two on 11 occasions to seal the La Liga title, and add in 10 Copa del Rey final victories, and domestically they have an impressive record. But they reached the Champions League final in 1974 and 2014 and 2016, losing to Real in those latter 2 appearances. But Atletico are not without some European success. They've won the Cup Winners' Cup when they beat Fiorentina in the 60s, and they've also won the UEFA Cup or the Europa League on 3 occasions as well. And each time they've won that competition, they've gone on to defeat the winners of the Champions League and lift the European Super Cup. But if you were to take over at this great club, your challenge would be clear. They yearn for a chance to reach another Champions League final, potentially against their city rivals Real, but this time emerge victorious with the trophy. Our next 2 challengers are 2 rivals from the same city of Seville, and the first are Real Betis, who last season were winning the Copa del Rey with a penalty shootout final victory over Valencia with veteran Joaquin on the score sheet. That shootout win was the 3rd Copa del Rey in the club's history, following triumphs in 1977 and 2005. But if you were to take over at Real Betis, there would be 2 honours that would be on your radar. The first would be to win the club another La Liga title. They won it back in the 30s, coincidentally during the first season where their rivals Sevilla were competing in La Liga as well. But they're approaching 90 years since they've won that title, and they would dearly like another. But they would also like European glory as well. Whilst rivals Sevilla have won the Europa League a record number of times, including plenty of wins over the last decade, Real Betis have had to watch on, and they are yet to taste any success in a European final. But is this where you sensationally take over the club, as Real Betis would offer you the chance to compete in European competition from your first season in charge, and you could try and set right the wrongs of their past continental failures. At rivals Sevilla, there are no shortage of cup wins, but tied with Betis, they have just the 1 league title that they won way back in the 1940s. Their pedigree as a cup-winning side is undeniable, having lifted the Copa del Rey on 5 occasions, but perhaps even more spectacular is their 6 Europa League victories, all won in a spell between 2006 and 2020. In addition, they went on to win the UEFA Super Cup in 2006, but that 1 league triumph is looking a little bit lonely. They possess strong facilities with excellent training and youth facilities and good academy coaching and youth recruitment. But a city the size of Seville and clubs of the standing of Betis and Sevilla really should have more than just a brace of league titles between them. Maybe you can take over this southern giant and guide them to the 2nd league triumph in their history. For our final challenger in Spain, we're heading to Villarreal to look at the Yellow Submarine, the club who had the distinction of never having won a domestic honour, despite the fact that they have won a European title. Villarreal's sole honour is a 2021 Europa League victory against Manchester United. Villarreal's European pedigree is highlighted once more when you consider they were only runners-up in La Liga once back in 2008, yet they've appeared in the semi-finals of the Champions League twice. This is a smaller club by Spanish challenger standards, one with slightly lower attendances. But if you were to take this challenge on, you could try and finally guide the Yellow Submarine to their first domestic silverware. Spain's top flight is a tough league to survive in, even more challenging if you're a club that's newly promoted to that division. And that's the challenge that awaits you if you take on Real Valladolid, another club that have yet to win a major honour apart from the now defunct League Cup. But whilst Valladolid may lack trophies, they have star quality in the boardroom, as the majority owner of the club is Brazilian World Cup winner Ronaldo. The club were promoted, having been runners-up in the 2nd tier last season. But survival in one of Europe's most competitive leagues is a tough proposition, let alone going on to build this club to a level where they might win a trophy, but perhaps an uphill struggle is exactly what you're looking for your FM23 save. If you like the idea of starting your FM23 adventure in the Spanish top flight, you don't want to take over a newly promoted club, well, instead you could take charge at Athletic Bilbao, a club that of course have that rather unique transfer restriction of only being able to sign Basque players. Of course, signing players is only half of the recruitment policy at Bilbao, as they also possess superb training facilities, superb youth facilities, excellent academy coaching, and good youth recruitment as well, as you try to produce your own generation of talent. Few clubs in Spain can compete with Bilbao when it comes to the number of times they've won the Copa del Rey, with 24 victories in that competition in total, although none since 1984, which was also the last time that they won La Liga, the last of their 8 triumphs in that competition. But whilst Athletic would dearly love to finish top of the league and lift La Liga once more, making it their 9th title in their history, they are also a club that have yet to win a European honour, despite appearing in finals. Could you be the manager that takes over this great side and takes them to a European final and emerges victorious, allowing the Basque nation to celebrate a continental crown? Next, we can take a look at some rebuilds, starting with Valencia, a club who are the last side from outside the cities of Barcelona and Madrid to have won La Liga when they lifted the title in 2004 under Rafa Benitez. But it's not just domestically where this club has experienced success. Valencia lifted the European Cup Winners' Cup when they beat Arsenal in 1980, and their most recent Europa League crown came in 2004 when they defeated French side Marseille. Off the field, the infrastructure is admirable, with excellent training and youth facilities, coupled with excellent academy coaching and youth recruitment. There have been cup triumphs over recent years, as well as them experiencing defeat in the final of the Copa del Rey last campaign, but it's in the league where they yearn for a return to the big time. It's approaching 20 years since they won the last of their 6 La Liga titles. Are you the coach to guide them to a 7th? For our next rebuild, we're going to drop down to the 2nd tier and to Racing Santander, a club that were one of the 10 founders of La Liga, and in 1931 they were finishing runners-up in this competition, managed by Englishman Robert Firth. But since then, their fortunes have not been quite so successful. That runners-up spot in 1931 remains their highest league finish, and they're yet to also win a Copa del Rey. But Santander were chosen ahead of Betis, Sevilla and Valencia as the 10th and final founder member of La Liga, and they are a club of great significance in Spanish football. They've just been waiting for a manager like you to take the helm and guide them to that first domestic honour. But first, you need a promotion to reach the top division. But for our final rebuild, we can drop down to the 3rd tier of Spanish football, where we will find a club that has experienced success in its past. In fact, they are a former La Liga winner. Deportivo La Coruña were the champions of Spain in the year 2000 and have also been runners-up on 5 occasions too. They've also experienced success in the Copa del Rey, winning that competition in 1995 and 2002. Deportivo were demoted to the 4th tier, but a promotion has meant that they're back at the 3rd, but this is certainly not the level that they are accustomed to competing at. You would need 2 promotions to take them back into the top flight before you could start trying to build a side capable of winning the Spanish title once more. For our first lower league suggestion, we're going to begin in the 2nd tier and the club of Eibar, another Basque side. But whereas Athletic Bilbao and Real Sociedad have shared 37 honours between them, Eibar are a club that are still waiting for their first. Eibar are one of the smallest clubs to appear in La Liga, where they spent 7 seasons before their relegation in 2021. It's somewhat of a miracle that a club this size was able to compete at La Liga level for 7 seasons, but they're now back in the 2nd tier. Regionally, they are dwarfed by the might of Sociedad and Athletic Bilbao, and even other Basque sides such as Alaves have appeared in European finals, making Eibar very much the young brother in this quartet of clubs. But could you guide them back to the top flight, potentially securing them safety at the first time of asking before building a club that can challenge for domestic honours? Might that be the Copa del Rey, or could you even guide this tiny side to a shock La Liga title? But for our last 2 lower league challenges, we're going to head down to the 4th tier. And first, to the city of Alicante on Spain's southern eastern coast, where we'll find the club of Hercules, who've spent 20 years of their history competing at La Liga level. Hercules have dropped from the top flight down to the fourth tier in a little over a decade, but could you return them to La Liga in an even shorter period of time? This is a region of Spain that could probably support a top flight club, and Hercules have a stadium that holds almost 30,000 spectators. The infrastructure is there. They're just looking for a manager that can take them all the way back to the top. It would be a Herculean effort, but maybe you're the coach for the job. And for our final lower league challenge, we're staying in the fourth tier, but we're leaving Spain and we're heading to Africa for a challenge I first mentioned during a video with Zealand that lots of people took on during FM22. Melilla are based in a Spanish enclave of Morocco. They may compete in the Spanish league system, but they play their home matches on mainland Africa. Facilities at this level are a little more basic, with adequate training and youth facilities, adequate academy coaching, and fairly basic youth recruitment. But this has become one of the most epic challenges in Football Manager, taking this side based in Africa from the fourth tier of Spanish football all the way to the top, then qualifying for Europe and trying to achieve the ultimate goal of making a club from Africa the champions of Europe for the first time. It is not for the faint-hearted, and it would be a long-term challenge. Maybe you could even do it whilst producing some top talent in the process. If you're going to take this on, you're going to have to be prepared for several seasons of toil. But were you to achieve it, it could be your greatest triumph in Football Manager in all your years of playing. For our final suggestion, we're staying in the fourth tier, but this time it's a club with a special story. Recreativo Huelva were founded in 1889 by two Scottish miners, and they are the oldest surviving club in Spain. Despite their long history, Recreativo has spent just 5 seasons in the top division, and they've not played at that level since a 3-year stint ended in relegation in 2009. Since then, Recreativo have had a difficult time slipping through Spain's divisions, not just to the fourth tier, but to the fifth, where last season they were promoted, and they're back at a playable level in Football Manager. This is your opportunity to take charge of the country's oldest club. You would need 3 promotions before you could call yourself a La Liga club and compete at that level for a 6th season in their history. But how about trying to win the nation's oldest side their first major honour as well? Few nations can match Spain in terms of the difference in size between the very biggest and the very smallest clubs that you could take charge of. We're going to see you very soon, where we're going to make another country the focus of our next League Lowdown.